Who would you rather have? A Von Miller / Chandler Jones or a Hassan Reddick, Randy Gregory? And we're talking for those first two guys, 16 to 20 million. Those second two guys, 10 to 13.
So my question would be, who else do you get with that extra money?
Yep. So we're talking $6 to $10 million.
Because we haven't even talked about other positions that I think the Broncos could or should address.
They need a slot corner.
Exactly. And so I'm thinking, okay, if you go the Gregory route and that allows you to maybe go get J.C. Jackson, that total is going to be more for sure. But that's something I would sign up for. In fact, I would take the corner over any of these pass rushers.
What about if it were something like Reddick, who might be kind of in that $12 million range, and then saying, all right, we're gonna play a lot of dime with Evero's scheme, and sign both Chris Harris Jr. and Bryce Callahan.
Talking about reunions.
Yeah. I think I'm out on reunions.
Yeah.
My 10-year high school reunion got canceled because of COVID. Maybe that's just spoiled reunions for me as a whole.
I've never been to a high school reunion.
Really?
Never.
I was kind of excited for it.
I have no desire to go back. Like honestly, I know this sounds bad, but like most of those people I can kind of live without seeing.
I would say the other side for me is like I can go have a high school reunion in downtown Denver anytime I want.
Right, that's very true.
But yeah, I mean, we can't. It's the same thing. It's like how good is Chris Harris Jr. actually? How much does he have left? Are we being influenced by the idea of a reunion?
Right, and the emotional thing. I think absolutely. And why I would be okay with Chris and Bryce is you'd have to be getting both of them at a pretty good discount. But you may be able to do that because neither of them played a full season last year. And so what you would be doing by re-signing both of those guys is saying, we're going to get one full season between the two of these guys.
Yeah, I mean, but you better be paying them the cost of one.
Exactly. I completely agree with that.
I think they would too. I think you're basically probably talking about these guys being in the $4 to $6 million a year range per.
You know what? I'm more in on this because I would love Pat Surtain to be around Chris Harris Jr.
I would too.
Yeah,
I think that can only help him.
And with Chris, there was a report that came out a couple months ago that Chris is probably going to wait until around training camp to sign. A, he gets to avoid OTAs, doesn't have to worry about all of that. That's fantastic. Maybe miss some of training camp, which I'm sure he would love to do. And then B, also on top of that, Chris would then be able to get a bigger role from a team who maybe has an injury, who wasn't able to fill the cornerback role in free agency or in the draft. And with Bryce Callahan, you let him test the market. Just like George Payton said at the Combine, you let these guys test the market to see that maybe their value isn't what they thought it was, or maybe the Broncos didn't value these guys more, and you do risk losing those guys. But a guy that's been injured so much, when he plays, Bryce Callahan's great, but he's injured all the time. So he may think his value is way more than the rest of the league. So I think that's why they're letting guys like that test the market. And when we talk about this, we also have to talk about how much cap space the Broncos have. On paper, right now, the Broncos have, I guess I should say yesterday morning, the Broncos had $26 million in cap space. Now, you have to include the guys that they did moves with yesterday. They signed 3 guys to ERFA tenders, which is about $780,000. They signed Calvin Anderson to a 1-year, $2.5 million deal. And they signed Andrew Beck to a 1-year deal, and we don't know the price on that. I imagine it's about $1 million or $2. So then you also have to factor in about $6 million for the draft class. Now, you can factor in a little less than that because of the way the top 51 works, but we're talking about Broncos have anywhere from between $15 and $19 million in cap space right now after the rookie class. We just talked about signing Von Miller or Chandler Jones to a $16 to $18 million deal. That's it right there. Now, we know they're going to manipulate the cap a little bit, but what I'm saying is, especially without kicking the can down the road a ton, because I don't think George Payton's going to go all in this year and do that, the Broncos really don't have that much money to spend. I mean, there kind of is a reason we've only talked about one position so far. In my opinion, it's the biggest need the Broncos have that they're going to address in free agency, and most of their money is going to go to that.